This is the story of Aisha, a woman struggling to survive, and Marcus, a successful man who owns everything money can buy. One living in lack, the other in abundance. But on a damp morning in the bustling city, fate brought them together in a way no one could have predicted, and what happens next will definitely touch your heart. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video, okay? Oh, and please leave a comment down below telling us where you're watching from. We love knowing that. It was a chilly morning. A light drizzle was falling gently. Cars rushed by on the busy boulevard. Aisha stood quietly on the street corner, holding Nia close, her tiny little girl curled up in her arms. The baby was wrapped only in a thin piece of cloth. Nia's cries were weak, her little body ice cold, her face soaked with tears. Aisha had no umbrella, no jacket, no food, no place to go. Her flip-flops were torn to shreds, her dress soaked through. But she didn't move. She couldn't leave. Last night, neither she nor her daughter had eaten a single bite, not even a crumb. So this morning, even though the rain was pouring, she made up her mind to stand by the road, hoping someone would stop and help. Not because she herself was starving like crazy, but because Nia was hungry, and she couldn't bear to watch her baby suffer any longer. People walked past. Some glanced at her with pity. Others turned their faces away. Two men standing nearby whispered, "Why's she just standing there in the rain?" The other one answered, "Probably how she makes a living." A lot of people fake being pitiful to get money. Some even rent kids to make it more emotional. Aisha heard every word, but she didn't say anything. She just gently wiped Nia's face and softly sang a lullaby to her. Aisha held out her hand. Her voice was quiet, tired, but full of pain. "Please help me. Just a little food for my daughter, that's all. She hasn't eaten anything. Please." She looked down at Nia's tiny face. The baby's lips were cracked and dry. Her cries had grown frighteningly faint. Aisha held her even tighter. "Don't worry, sweetheart," she whispered. "Mommy's gonna get you food today, even if I have to stand here all day. Someone will help us." But Aisha had no idea that help was closer than she thought. Inside a sleek black SUV, a man was sitting in the back seat. His name was Marcus. He was the kind of rich that made people do a double take when they walked by. That morning, he'd come to the office extra early. He had a critical meeting with some foreign partners who wanted to work with his company. This meeting was huge. It could take his business to the next level and bring in clients from all over the country. Traffic was heavy. Cars crawled along. Just the usual city chaos. Marcus leaned back in his seat and stared out the tinted window. Then something caught his eye. He sat up straight. A young woman was standing on the sidewalk, holding a baby. The rain was still coming down, not too hard, but enough to soak anyone. The child was drenched. The woman looked exhausted, completely drained, like she had no strength left. Marcus kept watching her. He saw how tightly she held that baby, like the child was the only thing she had left in the world. She didn't move. She didn't shout. She just stood there, quietly asking for help. Something deep inside, Marcus stirred. He knew this wasn't normal. Someone begging with a baby in the rain, this was real pain. He looked at her one more time, and then he made a decision. "Pull over," Marcus said. The driver glanced back. "Sir, stop the car." The driver pulled to the curb and stopped. Marcus opened the door. He stepped out into the rain. His leather shoes hit the wet pavement. His suit started soaking up water. But he didn't care. He walked slowly toward the woman. Aisha didn't notice him at first. She was busy singing softly to Nia. The baby was still whimpering, weak and tired. Marcus stood right in front of her. Aisha looked up. She was startled to see a tall man standing so close. She looked into his face. He looked serious, but there was kindness in his eyes. "Good morning," Marcus said gently. Aisha didn't speak. She just nodded slightly. He looked at the baby. What's her name? Nia. Aisha answered softly. Marcus stepped closer and looked at Nia's face. The little girl was shivering. Her lips trembled as she cried silently. Has she eaten anything? He asked. Aisha shook her head. No, sir. Nothing since yesterday. Marcus looked at her. Soaked clothes. Her hands were ice cold. And you? Have you eaten? Aisha looked down. No, sir, but it's okay. I just want food for my baby. Marcus was quiet for a moment. He looked at both mother and child. Then he said, Come with me. Aisha looked up, confused. Sir, come on. Let me help you. Aisha stood still. She looked at Marcus. She felt scared. She'd never spoken to someone rich like him before. She didn't know what to think. But when she looked into his eyes and saw they were calm, they were kind, she looked down at Nia. The baby was still shaking. Her tiny fingers were freezing. Aisha took a deep breath. Then she slowly nodded. She followed Marcus to the black SUV. The driver opened the door. Aisha stepped in, clutching Nia close. She sat carefully on the edge of the seat, afraid to touch anything. The driver glanced at her in the rearview mirror. He didn't say a word, but his eyes were full of questions. Aisha avoided his gaze. She looked at her baby and gently rocked her. Beside her, Marcus sat quietly. He stared straight ahead as the car pulled away, but his mind was racing. Who is this woman? What happened to her? Why is she in this situation? Inside the car, Marcus pulled a small towel from the seat pocket. He handed it to Aisha. Here, dry the baby off with this. Aisha quickly took it. Thank you, sir, she said. Her hands shook as she wrapped the towel around Nia. Marcus watched her. Her dress was still wet. Her hair was dripping, but she didn't complain. She just focused on her child. What's your name? He asked. Aisha. She answered softly. Okay. Aisha, where do you live? Aisha looked down. At first she said nothing. Then she whispered, We sleep on the street, sir. Marcus nodded slowly. He didn't look surprised. He just took a breath and said, All right. I'm taking you somewhere safe. Aisha looked up. Her eyes went wide. Really, sir? Marcus nodded. Yes. Somewhere dry and warm. You and Nia need rest and food. Tears welled up in Aisha's eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. Thank you, sir. God bless you. Marcus didn't say anything more. He looked out the window, deep in thought. But Aisha had no idea this was only the beginning. Marcus glanced at his watch. He knew he was about to be late for the meeting. The foreign reps were probably already waiting at the office already. This was an important meeting, one that could change everything for his company. But he looked at Aisha. He looked at little Nia, both of them exhausted, freezing, and hungry. He shook his head. No, he told himself. They need to eat first. He told the driver to stop at a small diner. They went inside. Marcus didn't care who was looking. He ordered hot rice, fried bananas, chicken, and warm milk for the baby. He asked for water too. Aisha sat on the edge of the chair, still holding Nia. Her stomach was cramping. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. When the food came, she looked at Marcus. Can I eat here, sir? She asked quietly. Marcus nodded. Yes, go ahead. Aisha bowed her head. She put Nia on her lap and gave the baby the warm milk first. Then she started eating. At first she ate slowly, like she was afraid the food would disappear. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she chewed. Marcus watched in silence. And one sensible. Marcus watched in silence. He stayed quiet. He just waited. When she finished, She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Then she looked up at Marcus. Her voice was soft. "Thank you, sir. God bless you." Marcus leaned forward. "Tell me what happened to you. How did you end up like this?" Aisha looked down at her sleeping baby. Then she started talking. "Sir, I don't have anyone left in this world. My parents died when I was little. I grew up in an orphanage in Memphis. Life was so hard. Really hard. When I got older, I learned how to survive. I cleaned houses for people. I had some in Memphis. I cleaned houses for people. I did laundry. I cooked anything I could to stay alive." She looked at Nia and kissed her forehead. "Then, one day, I met Jamal. He was a taxi driver here in the city, but he was from a nearby town. He was kind, and we got close. We fell in love. After a year, he said we'd get married." She paused. Marcus kept listening. The diner was quiet. "A few months later, I found out I was pregnant. At first, I was scared, but when I told Jamal, he was so happy. He said he was ready to marry me, but he needed to go home and tell his family first. He said it was their tradition he had to tell his family before bringing his fiancée home." Her voice broke. "That was the last time I ever saw him." Marcus blinked. He sat up straighter. "What do you mean?" Aisha nodded slowly. "He promised he'd be back in a week, but he never came back. His phone stopped working. I waited. I cried. I begged his friends, but no one knew anything. Or maybe they were hiding the truth. I don't know. I ran out of money. I lost the place I was staying. No one would hire me because I was pregnant. So I ended up on the street. I started begging for food." She wiped her tears. "Now Nia is all I have." Marcus's heart felt heavy. He looked at the baby, now sleeping peacefully. Then he looked at Aisha. She was still so young, still full of hope, but life had treated her terribly. Marcus took a deep breath. He made a silent promise. Her story wasn't going to end here. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out some cash. He placed it on the table in front of Aisha. "Here, take this," he said. "It'll help you and the baby right now." Aisha looked at the money. Her hands started shaking. "Sir, this is too much," she whispered. "I can't take it all." Marcus looked straight into her eyes. "Take it," he said gently. "You need it." Aisha looked down at Nia, still sleeping in her arms. She picked up the money and clutched it to her chest. Then she bowed her head. "Thank you. May God bless you." Marcus nodded. He gave a small smile. Then he checked his watch. His eyes widened. "The meeting's already started. The foreign guests are probably at the office by now." He stood up quickly. "I had a very important meeting this morning," he said. "It'll probably last about 3 hours." He pulled a business card from his wallet. His card, with his name and phone number. He handed it to her. "Call me in 3 hours, okay?" he said. "I'll come get you wherever you are and take you and your baby somewhere safe." Aisha held the card like it was gold. She wanted to say something, but something stopped her. She didn't have a phone, not even a cheap one. She looked at Marcus's face. She wanted to tell him, but her lips wouldn't move. "Thank you," she said. She thought fast. "Now that I have money, maybe I can pay someone to make the call for me." Marcus looked at her one last time. "I'll be waiting for your call," he said. Then he turned and walked out of the diner. Aisha sat there, one hand holding Nia, the other holding the card. For the first time in a long time, she felt hope. After a while, Aisha stood up. She took the card Marcus had given her and folded it carefully. So she wouldn't lose it, she slipped it into a tiny pocket sewn inside Nia's little clothes. The baby was still sleeping. She felt the pocket to make sure it was safe. Then she held Nia close. As she stepped out of the diner, the baby's blanket shifted a little. She tried to fix it without waking Nia. She had no idea the card had fallen out. It dropped onto the wet ground near the diner door. No one noticed. By now, the rain had stopped. The sun was starting to peek through. Aisha walked slowly and took a bus back to the exact spot where Marcus had found her. She saw the little shop on the corner where she'd been begging that morning. The shop owner wasn't there, but the shade was still dry. She sat on the edge of a small wooden bench. She had no idea the card was gone. She told herself, "I'll wait here until it's time to call. Then I'll pay someone to help me make the call." But now, there was no card. No phone number. Nothing. At exactly noon, Marcus stood up from his seat in the conference room. The foreign guests had just left. Everything had gone well. He should have been smiling, but his mind was somewhere else. He frowned a little. He reached into his pocket and checked his phone. No. Missed calls. He looked at his watch again. 5 hours had passed. He sat back down and stared at the floor. Why hasn't she called? He asked himself. Did she forget? He rubbed his fingers together. Maybe she never planned to call. Maybe she's just one of those professional beggars. His face grew serious. But she didn't seem like that. She looked scared. She looked broken. He remembered how she cried while eating. He remembered how she held her baby like the whole world wanted to take her away. He let out a long sigh. I told her I'd take her somewhere safe because of the child. Why wouldn't she want that? He stared at his phone again. Still nothing. After a while, he put the phone down and went back to work. But his heart wasn't in it. And outside, in another part of the city, Aisha sat quietly in the shade, still holding Nia. Completely unaware the card was lost. It was lunchtime now. Marcus climbed into the black SUV and sat silently for a moment. He looked out the window, deep in thought. Then he turned to the driver and said, "Take me back to the little diner we went to this morning. The one where I took the woman and the baby." The driver nodded and started the engine. As the car moved through the streets, Marcus kept looking out the window. He hoped just maybe she was still nearby. He couldn't stop thinking about her. What if she tried to call and couldn't? What if something happened to her? The questions kept growing. They reached the diner. Marcus got out quickly. He looked around. His eyes scanned every corner. Nothing. No Aisha. No baby. He walked slowly toward the entrance. His steps were soft. Right at the door, he saw something on the wet ground. He bent down. It was the business card he'd given Aisha. It was soaked. The edges were soft from the rain. The writing was still clear. He picked it up and stared at it. His heart sank. Did she throw it away? He whispered. Or did it just fall out and she didn't notice? He looked around again. Still nothing. He closed his hand tightly around the wet card. Then he walked inside the diner and sat at the same table they'd used earlier. A waitress came over. "Good afternoon, sir. What can I get you?" He looked at her. No smile. "Chicken and rice, please," he said quietly. When the waitress left, Marcus leaned back in the chair. He placed the wet card on the table. He stared at it. Inside his head, two voices argued. One voice said, "She's gone. She never meant to call." The other voice said, "She lost the card, and maybe she's still waiting for him." He didn't know which voice to believe. But one thing was clear. He couldn't stop thinking about what that little baby might be going through right now. Far away, in another corner of the city, Aisha still sat quietly in the shade. Little Nia slept peacefully in her arms. Aisha looked tired. Her eyes were red. Now she thought it was time to call Marcus, so she slowly opened the tiny pocket inside Nia's clothes to check the card again. Her hand froze. Her heart started pounding. It was gone. She searched again, shaking the little clothes, checking her own wraps. Nothing. She stood up and looked around the ground. Still nothing. Tears spilled over. Oh no. 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 She cried softly. She sat back down and held Nia tight. This can't be happening, she whispered. Finally, God sent someone to help us. A good man. And now I've lost his card. She wiped her face with the wrapper paper, but the tears kept coming. Marcus said he'd come get us. He said we'd be safe. She remembered his voice, his kind eyes, the money he gave her, the food, and now there was no way to reach him. She held Nia even tighter. I'm so sorry, baby. Mommy lost it. I lost our only chance. Her heart felt like lead. Her lips trembled. Then suddenly, a thought flashed. Maybe it fell inside the bus I took. Or maybe at the diner, where he took us to eat. She looked up. She knew the bus was long gone. She didn't even remember the number. But the diner. Yes. She remembered the street. She remembered the table inside. Maybe she could find it. She stood up, still crying, but filled with hope. I have to go back. Maybe the card is still there. Maybe someone kept it safe. She wrapped Nia carefully on her back and started walking fast. She prayed silently. Please God, let me find it. Don't let this be the end of our help. Even though her legs were aching and her body weak, her heart still beat strong. She spotted a small yellow bus heading in that direction. She climbed on and sat quietly. She didn't say much. Her eyes stayed glued to the road. Every time the bus stopped, her heart beat faster. Finally, it pulled up near the diner. She got off, looked around, and hurried over. Was the business card still there? She didn't know, but she was ready to find out. Marcus sat quietly in the diner, finishing his meal. His mind was still on that card. He picked it up, wiped it dry with a napkin, and stared at it for a while. He sighed, then walked out of the diner. The driver opened the door, and Marcus got in. Let's head back to the office, he said. As Marcus's car pulled away from the front of the diner, Aisha was only a few steps away. She didn't see his face through the dark-tinted windows. He didn't see her either. And sewed. And sewed. And sewed. And sewed. By the time she reached the diner, the car was gone. She stood at the entrance, breathing hard. She slowly walked in, clutching Nia to her chest, looking around. Everything looked the same, but something was missing. She went straight to the table they'd used that morning. The table was spotless. No card, no trace. She bent down and checked under the table. Nothing. She turned to one of the waitresses nearby. Excuse me, has anyone found a small business card around here? Aisha asked, her voice trembling. The waitress looked at her and shook her head. No, ma'am. We cleaned the whole place. There's nothing. Tears filled Aisha's eyes. She walked back outside, holding Nia tight. Nia had started crying. Her only chance had slipped away, and she had no idea how close she'd come to being saved. She turned and walked away slowly, never knowing the man she was looking for had just left, only seconds earlier. That night, Aisha sat on the cold concrete floor of an unfinished building. The sky was pitch black, no windows, just crumbling walls and empty space. She laid down a few old pieces of clothing on the floor and gently placed Nia on them. Nia was asleep, her tiny hand resting on Aisha's arm. Aisha sat beside her, staring at the ceiling with tear-filled eyes. She whispered, Lord, I don't want my daughter to grow up like this. Please help us. She thought of Marcus, his face, his kindness, the way he looked at her, and her baby. Then she thought of the card. She lost her composure. She pressed her hand to her chest and sighed. Maybe I'll never see him again, she said softly. But right before closing her eyes, She made a quiet, powerful decision. I'll go back to that same spot, the exact place he saw me. Maybe, just maybe, he'll drive by again. She didn't sleep much. The wind blew through the open space. Mosquitoes bit Nia's arms. Nia cried in the middle of the night, but Aisha held on. Early the next morning, Aisha was already up. She wiped Nia down with water from a small bowl. She dressed her and gently combed her hair. She looked at Nia and smiled. We're going to be okay. Mommy promises. That morning, Aisha wasn't hungry. Marcus had given her enough money to feed them for over a week. But today wasn't about food. Today was about hope. She left the building and walked the streets with her baby on her back. She didn't beg. She just stood in the exact spot where Marcus had seen her the day before. Watching. Waiting. Hoping. Would he pass by again? She didn't know. But she was ready to wait, as long as it took. The sun was high in the sky. Morning at Marcus's house was bright and joyful. Today was special. His younger brother, Kian, was coming home after 17 long years. 17 years away. In Atlanta. Marcus had been waiting for this day. He didn't go to the office. He'd planned everything. He'd told the driver early. Head to the airport. My brother lands this morning. Be on time. Yes. Sir, the driver said and left quickly. Marcus walked around the house smiling. He went to the kitchen to talk to the chef. Don't forget the fried rice, beef jollof, grilled chicken, goat meat, and pounded yam. My brother loves pounded yam. The chef smiled. No worries, sir. Everything will be ready before he arrives. Then Marcus picked up the phone and called his 3 best friends. Kian's coming today. Come over. Let's welcome him properly. They all agreed. Laughter filled the compound. Soft music played in the background. Marcus stood on the balcony, looking out with joy in his heart. Today is a good day, he whispered. But far away in the city, Aisha still stood by the road. Nia tied tightly to her back. Her eyes were tired, but her heart was strong. She watched every black SUV that passed. Unfortunately, today the driver was using Marcus's newest red SUV. She waited and prayed. Maybe Marcus will drive by. Maybe today is the day my life changes. But she had no idea. Marcus was at home laughing, waiting for his brother. She had no idea the man she was praying to see again wasn't coming today, not even close. Lord, please don't forget me, she said. The day was still long, but the wait already felt endless. At the airport, Marcus's driver stood at arrivals holding a small sign that read, Kian. Soon, a tall man, with a bright smile, pushing a cart full of suitcases, walked out. Kian saw the sign with his name, smiled, and walked over. You must be Marcus's driver. Yes, sir, the driver said, taking the cart. As they drove away from the airport, Kian rolled down the window and looked around. Man, this place has changed, he said. The driver smiled. Yes, sir. A lot has changed since you left. But as they got deeper into the city, the cars started slowing down. Cars everywhere, trucks, buses, motorcycles, bicycles, horns blaring. From the driver's seat, he muttered, Here we go, traffic again. Kian laughed and leaned back. How do you people survive this chaos? The driver chuckled. We have to. This is the city Africa's biggest urban jungle. They both laughed. But right then, as the car crawled forward, the driver glanced ahead. His smile faded for a second. There, on the sidewalk, stood a young woman with a baby on her back. She looked exhausted, and she was the same woman Marcus had taken to the diner yesterday. The same woman he'd gone back to look for. The same woman who fed her baby before touching her own food. The driver's hands tightened on the wheel. Kian noticed the change in his face. Everything okay? Kian asked. The driver shook his head. Nothing, sir. Just traffic. He didn't know what to do. Should I stop? Should I call the boss? But he wasn't sure. So he kept driving, but he kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror. And deep down, he knew that woman mattered. About 19 minutes later, the red SUV pulled into Marcus's huge estate. As soon as the car stopped, Kian stepped out and looked around. The house was beautiful, flowers at the gate, everything spotless and shining. Suddenly, the front door opened. Marcus walked out with a huge smile. "Kian!" he shouted. "Brother!" Kian grinned and opened his arms wide. They hugged tight. "You look good, man," Marcus said, grabbing his brother's shoulders. "And you look even richer," Kian teased. They both laughed. Right then, a few of Marcus's closest friends came out too. They shook Kian's hand and welcomed him warmly. Laughter, smiles, drinks in hand. But one person wasn't smiling. The driver. The driver. He stood quietly beside the car, looking worried. His eyes kept flicking toward Marcus every few seconds. He needed to talk, and fast, before that woman left the spot. When everyone started walking into the house, the driver quietly followed. He didn't say a word. He just stood by the main door and waited. Soon, Marcus went to the kitchen to check on the food. The chef was busy slicing meat and frying. The driver hurried after him. "Excuse me, sir," he said quietly. Marcus turned. "Yes, what is it?" The driver took a deep breath. "Sir, I saw her." Marcus's face changed. "Who?" "The woman from yesterday, sir. The one with the baby. She's standing in the exact same spot you found her." Marcus went quiet. His eyes dropped, thinking. Then he said slowly, "The woman who threw away my card. Does she really need help?" He remembered the rain. He remembered how she wrapped her baby with that towel in the downpour. He remembered her saying, "My baby didn't eat anything last night." Something ached in his chest. Maybe she was just scared. Maybe she didn't throw it away on purpose. He looked at the driver and said, "Go back there right now. If she's still there, ask why she didn't call. If her reason makes sense, and if her face shows she truly needs help, bring her to me." The driver nodded. "Yes, sir." He turned and walked quickly out. Aisha was still standing by the road. She looked exhausted. Little Nia lay still against her chest. The sun was hot, and the baby's little head was sweating. Aisha looked down the street again. Her eyes searched for any sign of Marcus's car, but there was nothing. She looked up at the sky, then at her child. Her heart started to sink. "It's past noon," she whispered. "If he goes to the office like yesterday, he would have passed by already." She looked up again, still hoping. Then she whispered, Maybe today he didn't go to work, or maybe he took a different road." She sighed and looked at Nia. "Come on, baby. Let's find some shade." She was just about to turn away when she heard a voice behind her. "Ma'am, wait." She spun around fast. A red SUV had pulled over. The window rolled down. The man inside pointed at her. "Hold on," he said. She looked closer. It was Marcus's driver. Her eyes went wide. Her heart pounded. She held Nia tighter. When the driver got out and walked toward her, Aisha took a small step forward. The moment their eyes met, tears spilled over. She didn't sob out loud, but the tears were there. She spoke quickly, voice shaking. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I lost the card he gave me yesterday. I looked everywhere. I even went back to the diner, but it wasn't there." The driver looked at her. He saw the tired, sweaty face, the way she held her baby like gold. She wasn't faking. She wasn't acting. She looked like a woman who had cried quietly all night. He didn't need to ask anything else. "Please come with me," he said gently. Aisha nodded. He opened the back door. She climbed in with Nia. The driver got in and started the engine. As they drove away, Aisha looked out the window. She didn't know what waited at the end of the ride, but inside she whispered, "Thank you. God. Thank you." The red SUV pulled into Marcus's compound and stopped at the parking area. The driver got out first and gently opened the back door for Aisha. She stepped out slowly, holding Nia close. Her heart was racing. She looked up at the huge house. It felt like a dream. Everything was beautiful. The driver smiled softly. "Come with me." She followed him. As they walked inside, laughter came from the living room. Marcus was sitting there with his brother Kian and a few guests. They were still talking and laughing. But the moment Marcus looked up and saw Aisha, his smile vanished. He stood up slowly. Aisha hurried toward him, still holding Nia, and started to kneel in greeting. But Marcus rushed over and took her hands. "No, please," he said softly. "Don't do that." She stood there trembling. Everyone turned to look. The room went silent. No one spoke, but their eyes were full of questions. Marcus didn't explain. He just turned to her and said, "Come with me." He led her out of the living room and down the hallway. He opened the door to a guest bedroom. The room was clean and cool. "Please," he said gently, "take a proper shower. You and the baby can rest here." Aisha nodded slowly, still looking around like she wasn't sure it was real. Marcus left her there and went straight to the kitchen. He called the chef. "There's a woman in the guest room," Marcus said firmly. "Make sure she gets plenty of food. No delays." "Yes, sir," the chef replied. That evening, after everyone had gone home, Marcus sat in the living room with Kian and Aisha. Aisha looked completely different, clean, wearing new clothes the maid had given her. Nia slept peacefully in her arms. Marcus looked at her. "You said you lost the card," he asked gently. Aisha nodded. "Yes, sir. I looked everywhere. I even went back to the diner, but it was gone." She paused, then added, "My phone? It broke before I had Nia. I haven't had one since." Kian listened quietly. Marcus had already told him a little about the woman and what happened yesterday. Seeing her now, Kian felt something deep in his chest. He looked at the baby, then at Marcus. Marcus leaned forward. "I can't change your past," he said, "but I can help you change your future." Aisha looked at him, speechless. Marcus continued, "Think about it. Is there any kind of work you'd like to do? Anything you're good at or want to learn? Just tell me. I'll make it happen." Aisha blinked. Then he added, "You'll stay here until I find you your own place." Tears rolled down her cheeks. This time she didn't try to hide them. She looked at Nia, then at Marcus. "Thank you," she whispered. Kian smiled softly and looked at his brother. Marcus just nodded. But inside, he knew he had just made a decision that would change this woman's life forever. A few days later, Marcus walked into the living room and smiled at Aisha. "Get ready," he said. "We're going out." "Out?" she asked. Surprised, he nodded. "Yeah, you and Nia have something important to do." Soon they were on the road. Marcus didn't say much, but Aisha held Nia tight and stared out the window. She still couldn't believe all of this was happening to her. They arrived at a big clothing store. Marcus led them inside. "Pick anything you like," he said. Aisha looked at him, eyes wide. "Sir, you really mean it?" He smiled. "You and Nia both deserve it." At first, Aisha was shy. She touched a few dresses and put them back, but Marcus encouraged her. Soon she picked out a few pretty dresses for herself and some cute baby outfits for Nia. When they were done, the cashier packed everything neatly. Marcus paid. Aisha's eyes shone with joy. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you so much." But Marcus wasn't finished. Next, they went to a phone store. He asked the salesman for a new, sturdy, easy-to-use phone. Then he took her to the telecom shop and helped her reactivate her old number. Aisha held the phone like it was gold. "God bless you," she said through tears. "I don't even know what to say." Marcus just smiled. "You don't have to say anything." They returned to the villa. When they walked in, Kian was waiting in the living room. He stood up as they entered. "Marcus," he said, "there's a place I want you to come see, and I want Aisha to come too." Marcus looked at Aisha. She nodded gently. Everyone got in the car together. The whole ride, no one said much. Aisha kept wondering what was happening. She looked at Nia, sleeping in her arms, and prayed quietly. After a while, the car stopped in front of a tall apartment building. Kian told the driver to park. Then everyone got out. Marcus looked at Kian. "Where are we? Just follow me," Kian said. They walked into the building. When they reached one of the apartment doors, Kian stopped. He turned to Aisha. "When I heard your story," he began slowly, "it reminded me of our mother." Aisha listened, unsure where this was going. Kian's voice grew softer. "She was a single mother," he said. "She raised Marcus and me all by herself. I remember her crying at night. I'd wake up and see her, but I was too small to help." Aisha's eyes welled up. Her hands trembled as she held Nia tighter. Kian continued, "She passed away before we ever made money, before we could show her the love she truly deserved. That pain never left me." Then Kian reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small key. "One," he said, "this apartment is yours." Aisha's knees buckled. She sank to the floor and started sobbing. "Oh my God," she cried. "What did I do to deserve this kindness?" Marcus stood silent. He looked at Kian, stunned. He had wanted to help Aisha, but now his own brother had taken it further. Marcus walked over and hugged him tight. "I'm proud of the man you've become," he said, voice thick. "I just wish Mom were here to see this." Kian held his brother's hand and smiled. Then he turned back to Aisha. "I've also arranged to open a supermarket for you," he said. "Don't worry, we'll find a good manager, but you'll be the supervisor, and in time, you'll learn to run it all yourself." She didn't know what to say, but deep inside she knew her life would never be the same again. Weeks passed quietly. Aisha's life had changed in ways she never imagined. Now she had a clean home to sleep in, food to eat, and a big supermarket with her name on it. The shelves were full. Customers came every day. She no longer had to beg on the streets with little Nia on her back. One warm afternoon, she was in the small office at the supermarket, writing down sales and checking the books. Nia slept in a little crib beside her. Suddenly, her phone rang. It was an unknown number. She stared at the screen for a moment, unsure. Something told her to answer. She pressed the green button and put the phone to her ear. The voice on the other end was a woman's calm, but carrying deep sadness. "Hello? Is this Aisha?" "Yes, this is Aisha," she answered slowly. A long pause. "I'm calling from a neighboring country," the voice continued. "My name is Evelyn. I'm Jamal's cousin." Hearing Jamal's name, Aisha froze. Tears instantly filled her eyes. It had been so long since she'd heard that name. "I've been trying this number for over a year," the woman said. "It was always off. Today I finally got through." Aisha said nothing. She just listened, holding her breath. "My cousin Jamal, he came here the same day he left you." The woman spoke gently. "There was an accident. A bad one. He never made it home. Number 40. Aisha clutched her chest. Her heart felt heavy. "He was in a coma for 4 months," the woman continued. "He never woke up. He passed quietly." A long silence covered the line. "I saw the messages he sent the family," Evelyn added. "I saw the love in his words. I know he was serious about you. Aisha wiped her face. She didn't know what to say. Aisha, 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 Aisha wiped her face. From the messages, I thought there might be a child, the woman said softly. Is there? Yes, Aisha whispered. Her name is Nia. She's his daughter. Her voice broke as she said it, but she didn't hide it anymore. The woman on the phone sighed. Jamal's mother is still alive, she said. She's old now. She cries every day. She thought Jamal left this world without ever leaving or anything, but now there's hope. Aisha took a deep breath and spoke calmly. Don't worry, she said. I'll arrange for Nia to meet her grandmother. She has to meet her granddaughter. I'll do everything I can to make it happen. The woman on the other end began to cry softly. Thank you, she said. After the call ended, Aisha sat alone in the small room. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Not tears of pain, but tears of peace. For so long she had lived with questions. She had lived in silence, but now she knew the truth. Jamal never abandoned her. He couldn't come back because he couldn't. He had fought for his life. Aisha had finally found closure, and now her daughter Nia would grow up knowing where she came from. A few days later, Marcus and Kian stopped by the supermarket. They found Aisha smiling this time from a place deep inside her. Marcus put a hand on her shoulder. You're strong, he said. And she was, because no matter how many times life tried to knock her down, she got back up. Not with hate, not with anger, but with hope. And with that, a whole new chapter opened for Aisha and her daughter Nia. The lesson: genuine kindness doesn't just change one life. It spreads hope, heals hidden wounds from the past, and opens a bright future for generations to come. It reminds us that even in our darkest moments, one act of compassion can be the lighthouse that guides the way. If you found this story touching and want me to write part 2 of this journey, please leave a comment or share your thoughts. Every single response from you is a new seed that helps the story keep blooming.